Welcome to Silver Screen Breakdown. Some such stories are collected in the horror anthology film GOEDAM released in 2020, which we will discuss today on our channel. So the first episode, we are shown a scene of a classroom where the camera is focused on a girl with the same name as C, who is not paying attention in the class and is very upset about something. We notice that the seat in front of C is vacant. There are white flowers placed on this seat, meaning this is the seat. The student was dead, so after some fear, C comes out of the class on the pretext of going to the washroom, and we notice a picture on the wall which is of two toppers of the class. One of them is C, and the other is second topper C. That's right. When we used to go out, there was a picture of a girl moving around strangely and smiling creepily, which was continuously letting her hear someone's voice. The lights around were also flickering, due to which I felt a little scared. We had to move towards the washroom where we saw her. Behind us we see a mysterious figure moving. She starts smoking, but she hears someone's voice coming from the stall next to her. At the point Sahi feels that someone is watching her, and she checks down and sees a very scary sight in front of her. As she sees someone's long hair above the toilet, Sahi gets very scared and tries to hide. After some fear, when he looks back down, he sees a severed head from the story which was of Gia in his class. Gia, in a blood-soaked state, says that "I have found you." After this he would have killed her right there. And in the scene we go back to the picture in the classroom where even C was smiling creepily. So this was the pori of crack. The story and this episode are based on the famous urban legends of Korea. According to this legend, many decades ago, there used to be two students in a school who always stood first and second, but one night the student who stood second was very jealous of the first topper. Both the children were studying till late night, and both of them used to study for hours while sitting in the library. Similarly, after one such study session, the second topper pushed the first topper student to death with his chaff. When the topper fell down, his head was the first to hit the ground, collided, and a sound came out of it, which is called, after this accident, that girl became an evil spirit. And what are the ghosts that keep appearing to children in upside-down situations? They are seen sometimes in toilets and sometimes under the discs. In this story, Sahi must have killed G by pushing her with chaff so that he himself could be the first, and that is why flowers were kept on the seat in front of him. In the end, he lived to take revenge. Which soul has come in the form of a host and kills the right one with Brahmi. So this was the story of the first episode in Urban. Now in the second episode we are shown a scene of a highway where a taxi driver is afraid of taking a taxi at night. I was driving, and in the background there was news on the radio that a shaman who was 50 years old had just died in the sky. By now it was 2:20 in the night, and the driver was feeling very sleepy. He sleeps on the side of the car. At 3:30 in the morning, a strange woman wearing white clothes is sitting in the car. The driver gets shocked after seeing her and asks why did he go here so late in the night. The woman does not say anything on this. The driver gets the address of the motel where he had to take him, but this motel was not present in the maps. Europe says that she knows the way and asks the driver to move ahead, but from here things start getting very bad when this woman repeatedly starts making the car turn to the right even though there was no way ahead. Now after some fear, the driver feels someone's collar on his neck. He feels the nails and he turns back in panic. Surprisingly, there was no one present in the back seat, and now that woman is sitting right in front of the car. The driver is like this. The car had to be stopped, and I looked back again. Now a woman showed her face, which was very scary. This woman was a ghost whose eyes were also not present, and the driver. She attacks him and takes out his eyes, and in the scene we see the driver's immortal body and his eyes were lying on the road below. This is where the story ends. Now the destination is based on the urban legend of Korea, Auro Highway. It is situated between Seoul and Paju. It is said that many years ago, a woman was killed here by someone due to illness, who keeps roaming on the streets of Abanro. Many onlookers say that this woman is seen wearing sunglasses first, but if you look closely, these are not sunglasses but his eyes, which are not there. Yes, in fact only. There are dark spots as if someone has taken out his eyes. This was the story of the second episode along with the discussion of the urban legend. Now the story of the third episode is of C. Rome, which is a broadcast. Serum's fans give him views for the live broadcast, and this is his career. Today Soren held a virtual housewarming on his channel because he has just bought his new house. While interacting with the viewers, suddenly society starts falling down from Soren's cupboard, which all the audience notices. Some people say that Shivam should be thrown out of the house, while some say that he should die. Now Serum also looks upset and talks about doing the broadcast band. She will go to her friend's house and do the rest of the broadcast. After this, Steam calls her friend and tells that she fooled her viewers and lost a lot of money earned, but she doesn't notice that the camera is on and all the audience has understood her prank. Now see Rom, unaware of this, tries to take a selfie in the camera when suddenly she starts seeing many people inside the camera. An invisible anti-touch starts strangulating the person and kills him by banging his head. We see that this anti was exactly like C-Rom in appearance. After this, the spirit knocks Siram off the chair and takes her place herself. She greets the viewers, and at this point the audience thinks that C-Rom is still alive, but actually she had lost her life. So this was the special guest story, which is based on Arable legend moving. In this episode, Steam tells that she had talked to many moving companies to change the house. However, the society was charging a lot of money for moving, so he decided to move on a day which was not the best time for moving in Korea. In fact, it is a small belief that moving should be done only on certain calendar days, otherwise unknown evil spirits may enter your house by making guest bands. Sri Ram is gasless. Instead of moving on normal days, he moved his house. In this episode, we see an evil spirit who finally kills him. This was the story of episode 3 and the discus of the urban legend. Now in the 4th episode, we are once again shown a school scene where we have 2 students. The name of the first is Mayan and the other one is her friend. Minimum has shown a viral video to her friend where we see evil. After seeing Anti, Minimum and her friend contemplate whether this video is true or one of them. After this, both the friends run to get books from the classroom, but Minimum's friend gets hurt and she goes to Mama alone to get the books. Actually, her plan was to scare Mean, which we understand when Mean opens his locker and sees a creepy doll there. Minimum immediately bandages it and comes out of the class with the books, but as unknowingly it gets locked and opened, where the dolly smiles and the Minnie is about to do someone's garden behind them. A voice has come, and there is a statue behind her. Behind her we see a scary girl whose whole body was all over the place. She attacks the NTV Pisces and somehow the Pisces tries to run down from the CDO. Now here is the interesting thing. The meaning was that Mean was crossing Syria again and again, but after turning around and reaching there, Mean was trapped in a time and space look. Her friend, who was waiting for Mean sitting on the CDO, saw someone there. By now she has come close to entertainment. Those who look into her eyes can see her eyes deteriorating. The scene cuts from here, and we see Mean's friend who was still waiting to be found, but here she starts coming near him. This is where the story is now based on the famous math from Chadiya. Story of if you find any strange society fallen, then you should not pick it up. Here Pisces' friend found this creepy doll story, and she picked it up and kept it in the locker, which released an evil spirit on Pisces and her. Now how big is the consequences of this? Maybe we are watching that. So this is the story of the 4th episode and a story related to it. Now for the 5th episode, Red Shoes. At the beginning, we see the same classroom scene that we saw in episode 1. In fact, there is still a picture of Kay and Jean Yi, and both of them are still alive. This time it is Foxy, who is very upset. Some students are talking amongst themselves in front of another student whose name is Jag Yoga, apparently who had died the previous day when he threw himself in front of a moving truck, and in this accident his lower back was severed. The entire group had become emaciated and had lost their lives. Flowers were placed on their seats towards the 1st episode. All the students were quiet. They look upset, but then their teacher comes into the class and asks them not to feel guilty for whose death. She asks them to delete the text messages and not to eat anything from the police. At this point we notice that whose death, the real reason behind this is a group chat where she was constantly being bullied. Yoon was also involved in this bullying, and the teacher also knew everything, but everyone was trying to hide this fact. We see that you're in the chat room. She leaves, but after the death of all the children, she remains sitting there because she was very guilty. We will spend the night ahead. We see the scene where the teacher was sitting in her room and doing homework when she gets a message from Yu, who calls her to the classroom to tell her something important. We see that the teacher enters the classroom wearing red shoes, and here she was sitting in this posture as if she was sitting after everyone's death in the morning. She has come to the teachers and tries to talk to them, but they hear the loud sound of dripping near them. When they look down, my senses are blown away. Yes, the exposed part of Yu's waist was covered with blood. Seeing this, the teacher got very scared. Now even the hero raised his head. And we see that she is Jean and Al. Yes, she had killed who? Now Jean smiles creatively after seeing the things and says that the tree in the t-shirt is not fitting my body. Can I take yours? Shukti Hoon. After this point the scene cuts and we see whose body comes out of the classroom, who was now wearing the teacher's red shoes. This is where the story ends. See, there is a Japanese myth according to which a woman meets with an accident on a highway, in which her body gets cut into two parts. Now the woman runs at high speed with the help of her hands and asks people for their money. This episode of Golden is based on the same story, no coming 2/6 episode, whose name is Dimension, unlike the rest of the episodes. Dimension is based on a very famous legend where we can travel to another dimension by using certain combinations on the elevator. At the beginning of the story, we see a boy inside an elevator when suddenly he lies down with his ears bandaged and starts tasting as if some loud noise is disturbing him, and then he becomes unconscious. Next morning, some police officers find a dead body in the lift which was in a very bad condition. It is said that this body is not that of the missing boy, and before his disappearance, the boy had shared on the internet his way of life in the second dimension of the elevator. We understand that here we are talking about this boy whom we have seen in the elevator. Now in the present time, the detective is reading the rules of elevator games where anyone has to enter the elevator between 2 and type some numbers which will take them to another world and also to end the game. The player had to press number 2. The detective would go in the elevator this night and perform these rules, due to which he is taken to a dark flat. Then suddenly he sees his own form in front of him, which he gets very scared of. He wants to run away from there by pressing 2. But before that, someone presses the button of floor 10 and takes him to the lift. There is a band, and now we see another woman in the lift with the detective. You are the detective, and she meets him on the first floor, and at first the detective does not say anything, but this woman assumes that he is listening to her, and she turns back, and we see that her face was scary and completely distorted. This entry. She tells the detective that I know that you can hear me, so she attacks the detective and kills him. Now finally in this we again see the first scene of the episode where the detective had found that dead body. He tells him that this dead body is wearing clothes exactly like yours and his height and physique are also similar to yours. The detective does not pay attention to his button, but we understand that this dead body is of this detective who is from another dimension in the future. More scenes from the episode Main Mara Janwala Hi I see in Humchath episode Student Means and we see her friend who is also going to play the elevator game, but in the fourth episode we see both the girls alive, whereas in the episode both of them are seen trying to save their lives in another dimension on the element. This might have happened because of the game. According to the rules, one has to play alone, otherwise it does not reduce. So friends, you can see how even though the story of the episode is different, it is somewhat similar to each other, and that is why it is quite interesting. In every 7th episode, we see a let us look at a family in which there is a man, his wife, and this is his small son. The child hits the floor of the room while playing and falls. Mother, you pick him up and ask him to walk carefully. Later in the episode, we see this lady going with her child to her mother's house where John before this. She tells her husband that he should not remove it from the room because recently a boy and a detective have gone missing from the building, and this clap will protect their family in this, pointing towards the incident of this episode, where we had seen the story of Dimension. If you remember, a boy went missing and a detective went missing. After the death of his wife and child, this man notices some pieces of hair near the threshold of the room and tries to take them out. He notices that some of these hairs are badly stuck, and when he forcefully takes them out, this incident makes him hear someone scream. Hair has been pulled out from someone's head. This incident seems very strange to this man, but he does not pay much attention to it. Now at night, this man returns in an intoxicated state and finds his wife. Despite his agreeing, he uproots Dalits. After this man goes to Sony, but after Sony, we see blood pooling on the threshold of the room, and it seems that some NTT is trying to get it out from there. Now while sleeping, some drops of blood also fall on this man, and he panics and picks up his clothes. A strange sight is seen in front where many body parts were gathering from here, and they're in his room. Along with this, right behind this man we see a scary ant which was quite huge and powerful. This entry was violently attacking this man. He does it, and we just hear a cry and start crying, and in the sun we see this man's dead body covered in blood, and that's where the story is now. According to old beliefs, the threshold of a door, i.e. Door Tris Hall, is the portal between the other world and our world. It is said that this threshold should be brought thoughtfully, and by placing it on it, something very big happens. Here the potter has been painted in the form of an evil entry. Now the logical reasoning behind this is that in earlier times, children used to fall on the threshold of the door, so these things were said to keep them safe so that they should pay attention and cross it properly. But yes, these small buttons. Actually, the fun of making a horror story is something else, and this story was also very good. Finally, we have reached the 8th episode, and where at the beginning of the story we see a shaman who gives a curse to a child in a basement. Small hands pick up this hair. After this, Sambin goes to another room and starts doing some magic. In the background, we see big news articles about many missing children, and it is revealed that this Sambin has kidnapped many children. She takes them and keeps them hungry and thirsty until they become weak and helpless. This shaman gives them only that much food, as much as they can survive, and in the end they kill them and imprison their soul. This shaman gets her strength from this, and she uses it for her benefit. So today this happens where this society, this child is captured and killed in a vessel. After this, the soul of this child is captured inside this connection where two people are able to see in his eyes, signifying her power. Now this shaman bans this vessel in a cupboard, and the child's katapa and flood hide it under a tree. In the next scene we see a woman near the shaman who is trying to kill her husband. Wanting to get rid of Samosa, she gives him a crown which will soon be considered her husband, but the thing to notice here was that the enemy was singing here exactly like in the 7th episode. Well, we also notice here that shaman is very intelligent. She is in such a situation because she was no longer able to hallow the souls of the children inside her. Either I had gone to torture her a lot. In such a situation, one day a woman came to ask the shaman about the whereabouts of her child, who was found by both of them. She was missing since I had already killed the daughter of this woman, and the coming of this woman here was a great shock to her. The same child's soul wanted to take out its mother from inside, but the shaman makes this woman run away from here. Here we understand that she is the mother of this child whom she has killed recently, and now she is given the Night of Ratchaman. The situation goes out of control and her body starts bursting. She starts eating like crazy from the vessel she had kept inside, which she had used after giving birth to a child. A monster baby comes out of Suman's stomach, which eats them, was born from all the souls. During this process, Salmon's life is taken out and this child comes out, and in the scene we see him as a woman. We see a woman who came to a shaman for her child and hangs herself from this tree where the child was buried at Kata in the sea. This is where the story ends. We hear the news of her death on the news in the episode 2 destination. Talking about the episode, here we talk about OM, who is a very strong Asiakarsh who kidnaps and kills children and uses their soul to perform black magic, which was quite prevalent in the station history where people also used to use animals in this way. But it is said that unlike D story, this is done by using magic. The shaman is abandoned by his god and gets a very bad punishment. While many people did not take part in such deed at all because cursing anyone can be very dangerous. So friends, this was the story of 8 episodes and you can watch. Even though the story is completely different, neither the story nor the story is